The Resident Evil series has been dormant for well over a year now. The critically acclaimed remake of Resident Evil 4 is the latest entry in the franchise, and it was released almost 2 years ago. Its Separate Ways expansion, which followed just a few months later, is the last time we got to enter the world of survival horror. Since then, it's been nothing but radio silence. No new mainline entry, which is to say no Resident Evil 9, no new remake, and no new spin-off or other side game. Worse still, no announcements, no trailers, nothing to give us even a glimpse of where the series is heading. Capcom has just been eerily quiet, and with each passing month, the hunger for a new Resident Evil experience only grows stronger and stronger. Especially because we now find ourselves in a whole new year, and the silence has not just remained, but it continues. Even though near the end of 2024, Capcom announced plenty of new things they are working on. Make no mistake, 2025 is crucial. With the 30th anniversary of the series looming over us, a milestone too significant for Capcom to ignore, and an entire year of deep slumber for the series behind us, there should be, no, there must be an announcement or reveal regarding the future of Resident Evil on the horizon. Especially since we know for a fact that Capcom is working on said future behind the scenes. So the question isn't are we getting something, the question is when, and more importantly, what. Let's address the what first. What's next for Resident Evil? Well, it's either going to be the long-anticipated Resident Evil 9, a new remake though we do not know which game will get the honor next, or a new spin-off slash side game. Given the results of my latest poll, the majority of you want Resident Evil 9 the most. So let's begin here. While Capcom has not officially announced or revealed the RE9, there are several indicators that suggest that development on it is well underway, and has been for a while. Namely, during the Capcom Next Summer Showcase, Koshi Nakanishi, the director of Resident Evil 7, stated, "We're making a new Resident Evil. It was really difficult to figure out what to do after 7, but I found it. And to be honest, it feels substantial. I can't share any details just yet, but I hope you're excited for the day." Oh, we are, buddy. We are. So they're definitely cooking something big and special in the background. This something is very likely RE9. Of course, Nakanishi was deliberately vague. So while we know that they're working on what is very likely the next mainline entry, we know almost nothing beyond that. No confirmed story details, characters, setting, enemies, perspective, or tone. However, this lack of details has not prevented the Resident Evil community from digging around looking for any information they can uncover surrounding the highly anticipated next entry in the series. The community has been abuzz with various rumors and leaks regarding RE9. One prevalent rumor indicates that the game could adopt an open world format, a significant departure from the series' traditional linear progression. This speculation originated from notable leaker Dusk Golem, who has a history of leaking accurate information regarding the franchise. Another major rumor suggests that Jill Valentine and Leon S. Kennedy will return, which is exactly why I included them in the RE9 concept image I used for my poll. According to these rumors, Jill and Leon are on a mission to infiltrate an island where clones of Evelyn are supposedly being made using the Megamycete, which would link RE9 to its two predecessors, RE7 and Village. However, it's important to note that some insiders, including Dust Golem, have debunked certain aspects of these rumors, particularly regarding new settings and mysterious enemies. But even if they hadn't, leaks and rumors are just that at the end of the day. So as always, take them with a grain of salt. Though granted, I'm sure most, if not all of us, want to believe that the part about Leon and Jill being the protagonists is true. Another rumor that has been circulating is that Chris will play a supporting role, as will Barry, who would be returning for the first time since Revelations 2. As for when we could see RE9 hit shelves, well, considering Capcom's historical release patterns and the time elapsed since the last mainline entry, aka Village, which was released in 2021, almost 4 years ago, it's plausible that RE9 will be released soon. Capcom's silence may indicate a strategic approach to building anticipation for a significant release, potentially aligning with the franchise's 30th anniversary in 2026, which would be an amazing time to release a new entry in the main series. It's worth mentioning, however, that the gap between RE7 and Village was 4 years, meaning it wouldn't be surprising if they instead give us RE9 this year and then to celebrate the 30th anniversary, they give us a remake. But could we really get RE9 this year when it hasn't even been announced yet? Well, it's possible. Resident Evil 7 was announced just 7 months before launch, meaning RE9 could very well be revealed in the next few months and released by the end of 2025. However, Village was released about 11 months after it was announced, so RE9 could also be announced sometime this year and released next year, again, to align with the 30th anniversary. Though this would mean we get another year with no new game for a total of 2 in a row. Something that has only happened once before in the history of the franchise, and it was after RE6, which kind of put the franchise on life support, a state it is not in now. So 2 years of nothing is not warranted. In any case, while concrete details about Resident Evil 9 remain scarce for now, the combination of official hints, circulating rumors, leaks, and a look at the release timeline, history, and patterns of the franchise paints a picture of an ambitious project that could redefine the series when it is announced and released sometime in 2025 and/or 2026. Now, what if RE9 is not what we're getting next? Well then, the next best guess as to what the future holds for the series is another remake. With 3 successful modern remakes under their belt, and with a survey question directly asking us which game we would like to see remade next, it's clear that Capcom is not planning to stop revisiting older games anytime soon. So the question is not are we getting more remakes, but instead when are we getting another one and which game will get the honor next. Capcom has followed a very clear pattern with Resident Evil's modern releases. After Resident Evil 7, they gave us 2 remakes, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, before moving on to Resident Evil Village. Then after Village, they dropped the remake of Resident Evil 4. This means that before we see Resident Evil 9, we could get another remake to continue this established cycle. As for when it could release and when we might get an announcement for it, well, it's basically the same story as RE9. This year must be when we finally get a reveal of what's next, with the launch date being late 2025 or early 2026. The latter aligning again with the 30th anniversary of the series, which takes us to an interesting discussion. What would celebrate said 30th anniversary better, RE9 or a new remake? It's honestly a difficult question. A brand new game would be exciting for sure, and it would be an awesome way to celebrate 30 years of unforgettable survival horror experiences. After all, RE9 could very well be the start of 30 more years. However, at the same time, nothing quite honors a franchise's legacy like remaking an older title. Resident Evil is built on nostalgia and reinvention. Just look at the success of the RE2 and RE4 remakes. So what better way to celebrate the 30th anniversary than bringing back a classic that helped shape the franchise? These older titles laid the foundation for everything that came after, and a remake would be the perfect way to honor that legacy. Obviously, the best anniversary gift would be both, but this might not be feasible. Now, even if we know that we're getting another remake soon, and we know when we might get it and when it might be announced, there is still another important question we must answer. Which game will be remade next? Well, it's complicated to say the least. The way I see it, there are really only 3 options: Code Veronica, Resident Evil 5, and Resident Evil 0. Now, I have no doubt that they will all be remade eventually, and I very much want them to. And they all very much deserve it. However, only one can be up next, and which one it will be is difficult to discern. For my money, if any game deserves a remake, it's Code Veronica. Released in the year 2000, it is incredibly outdated compared to modern Resident Evil standards. Unlike RE4 or RE5, which still hold up well and are fully playable on modern hardware, Code Veronica feels clunky, dated, and is inferior graphically and in terms of gameplay. Given that the 3 games before it have all been remade, Code Veronica is the most dated entry in the series and thus the one most deserving and most in need of a facelift. Heck, I remember seeing comments on some of my previous videos of people that have never played Code Veronica saying that they refuse to play it now because it's so archaic. In order for new generations to experience such a beloved classic, it desperately needs to be brought into the modern age. Also, Resident Evil 5 relies on Code Veronica to truly make sense narratively. Chris and Wesker's legendary rivalry, that starts in Code Veronica. Wesker's new superhuman abilities, introduced in Code Veronica. Even some of the major plot points that define RE5's storyline can be traced back to Code Veronica. If Capcom wants to remake RE5, they need to remake Code Veronica first for the full impact. The poll results show that most people agree that Code Veronica should be the next remake. On the other hand though, there's a very strong case for Resident Evil 5 being the next remake. Capcom deliberately teased RE5 in the Resident Evil 4 remake, particularly in the Separate Ways DLC, where Wesker directly references his plans that lead directly into the events of RE5. And unlike Code Veronica, RE5 was a massive commercial hit. The best-selling Resident Evil game of all time until the RE2 and RE4 remakes came along. However, remaking RE5 also presents a significant challenge. It was built for co-op and its tone leans far more into action than horror, making it tricky to adapt into the more atmospheric, survival horror-focused style of recent remakes. Large portions of the game would need to be reworked to align with Capcom's current vision. And then there's the controversy. Upon release, RE5 faced a major backlash over accusations of racism. If Capcom remakes it, they will have to tread very carefully to avoid another PR nightmare. It's also a game that, again, without Code Veronica's story beats, would lose some of its narrative weight if remade first. Still, the fact that Capcom teased it suggests that they might be considering it sooner rather than later, even though it's not as old as Code Veronica and it holds up a lot better. Finally, we have the least likely candidate out of the three to be up next, Resident Evil 0. While the game could benefit from modern controls, graphics, etc., it doesn't have the same desperate need for an overhaul or narrative necessity as Code Veronica, nor was it teased like RE5, and it was not as successful. It's also not as popular as either of them, and the poll results confirm and reflect this. That's not to say a remake of RE0 will never happen, but it's certainly not the next priority for Capcom. Though Dusk Golem did say that Capcom is reportedly working on remakes for Code Veronica and RE0. So who knows, maybe the return of Rebecca and Billy's first foray into the world of survival horror is closer at hand than we might think. Now, I do want to give the original Resident Evil, its 2002 remake specifically, an honorable mention. It was released the same year as RE0 and it runs on the same engine, putting them both on the same scale technologically and at the same age. However, RE1 2002 is already a remake. So would they really remake a remake? I mean, they probably will at some point, but likely not before the other three. Though it's worth mentioning that the release of the original RE1 in 1996 is what started this franchise, and what makes 2026 be the 30th anniversary. Releasing a remake of the first game exactly 30 years after its original release would be simply perfect. While RE9 or another remake is the most logical and likely next step, we can't ignore the possibility of spin-offs, especially since they remain a topic of interest among fans. The Resident Evil Outbreak series, released in the early 2000s, introduced cooperative gameplay, letting players experience the Raccoon City incident from multiple perspectives. However, it was held back by the technological limitations of its time, particularly in online connectivity. Fans have long requested a remake or sequel for the Outbreak series, especially with today's online capabilities. But Capcom has yet to announce any such plans or even hint at them. Capcom has also experimented with multiplayer-focused RE titles, though with mixed results. Umbrella Corps attempted to capitalize on the competitive shooter market but failed to resonate with fans. Resident Evil Resistance, bundled with the RE3 remake, introduced asymmetrical multiplayer but struggled to maintain a player base. RE Burst, intended as a 25th anniversary celebration, suffered delays and received lukewarm reception upon release. While Capcom remains open to multiplayer experiences, none have truly succeeded, making another attempt unlikely, at least for now. The Resident Evil universe is full of unexplored and not explored enough stories and characters. Spin-offs focusing on characters like Hunk or Rebecca Chambers, who we know little or nothing about, or global bioterrorism events outside the main narrative could offer fresh, interesting, and engaging experiences. However, these projects would require significant resources, and Capcom would need to ensure they meet the expectations set by the mainline series. Many fans, myself included, also hope for a Revelations 3. Given the franchise's current trajectory, however, it's doubtful that any spin-off will take priority over RE9 or the next remake. Ending a dry spell with a side game instead of a major release just wouldn't make sense, especially right before the 30th anniversary. With every passing month of silence, the anticipation for the next Resident Evil game grows stronger and stronger. The series has weathered dormancy before, but never with such an eerie lack of clarity about what comes next. Resident Evil 9 is the most logical step forward, yet Capcom's secrecy leaves us in suspense, fueling speculation, rumors, and hope. Whether it's RE9, another remake, or even a surprise spin-off, one thing is certain: Resident Evil is far from dead. Capcom knows exactly how big this moment is. The 30th anniversary isn't just a milestone, it's a statement, a declaration of Resident Evil's legacy and its lasting impact on survival horror and gaming as a whole. This silence cannot last forever. A reveal is coming. It must be coming. And when it does, it won't just be another announcement. It will be a return, a resurgence, a moment that reminds the world why Resident Evil is one of the greatest gaming franchises of all time. Capcom might be biding their time, aiming to build up enough hype through sheer anticipation so that when they finally break the silence, we will be left speechless. So the only question left to ask isn't if Resident Evil will return, but when and just how massive will its comeback be. I absolutely cannot wait to see the answer. Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, it would really mean a lot to me if you could drop a like and subscribe. Also, please do check out some more of my videos by clicking the links on screen. Thank you so very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.